Good to see you back on our platform for yet another interesting session where the focus is on creating creative classrooms using stories. An intriguing topic, right? Let us break down the topic to understand it better. We do have classrooms which run on certain fixed rules, expectations, and structure. Sit in your places, do not talk out of turn, respect boundaries, very clinical, right? And then in the same breath, we are talking about creativity. What is creativity? Is it painting the sky orange or giving eyes and nose to non living things? Or is it like Panchatantra and Jataka tales, which we swear by to drill in morals where trees, animals, and nature are personified? When we talk about storytelling, then our imagination has no bars. We can have a beautiful mythology where we can tell why peacock has 100 eyes, why camels have hump, and also why a zebra has stripes. These may not be factual, but these are the stories which we heard when we were maybe 6 or 7, and now 2 to 3 decades later, we still remember them. Unlike where did we leave our phone charger a minute ago, or what are the names of our students whom we interact with on daily basis. And secondly, when we talk about stories, sky is the limit. There is no logic holding our imagination as long as we can hold the attention of the listener and make him or her go through a gamut of emotions with the narration. But here is where it gets interesting. Miss Nupur says that we can teach mathematics and science through stories. How? How can you mix facts with fiction? How can you use left brain to achieve the targets of right brain? Interesting and intriguing. I'm looking at Miss Nupur, the facilitator of today's session, with stars in my eyes to unfold this magic of storytelling to teach core concepts. For those who are regularly connected with us, Miss Nupur is no stranger and needs no introduction. But to the first timers, let me introduce her. Miss Nupur is an artist at heart. She is a trainer, performer, author, educator, and a YouTuber. She is the author of Storytelling Made Easy. She has curated Buffesto, India's biggest oral storytelling festival, in collaboration with Government of Odisha. She joined forces with Buckle Foundation in 2020 to conjure Storytime at 9, an online spectacle spanning 50 weeks. Storytellers from 50 countries grace the virtual stage, weaving tales of their lands and traditions. Ms. Nupur's impactful collaborations have reached over 170 schools across India, where her passion for storytelling has transformed classroom experiences. That was quite a long introduction. All I'm trying to convey is that when a person is adept at doing so many different things using her storytelling skills, mapping stories to teach fact is going to be a piece of cake for her. So let us share this delicious cake with her today and learn the art of baking the cake. Over to you, Miss Nupur.
Thank you, Sardaji. Thank you so much. Thank you. Then big thanks to the entire Viva group for making this meetup possible. A very good evening, and it's wonderful to see so many of you here today. And I'm told that there are close to 10,000 registrations. And when I was told this, I went, wow. So before we dive into the power of stories, I have a quick activity for all of you, and this activity has been planned to tune up the most important storytelling tool, and that is our ears. So this is an exercise that we are going to do together in listening, and I'm going to ask you to close your eyes very honestly for 30 seconds. Okay, so you have to really shut yourself from the world for 30 seconds and to close your eyes for that long, and everybody will go silent. Your task is simply to listen. You have to listen to the sounds in your environment. A sound uh, just outside your window, or it could be in your own home. But I would request you to just focus on only one sound. Pick out one specific sound. Okay, so are you ready? There are some generous souls here who have switched on their videos. And I love you for that. So, those who are watching me and those whom I can watch, kindly close your eyes for 30 seconds. And when the 30 seconds are over, I'll prompt you to open your eyes. And when you close, for those who are joining in, so as you close your eyes, try to focus on just one sound. It could be the whirring of your fan. It could be somebody calling out to someone outside your room. It could be the whistling of the pressure cooker, just anything. But there will always be one sound in your environment. So try to hear that. Focus on that. Okay, so let's begin. The time starts now. All right. I hope you did what you were asked to do. Okay, so now as you open your eyes, I would want you to type in the comment or the chat box that one interesting or the surprising sound you heard. Just one sound that you heard. Okay, so let's get to the chat box. Do not type anything else, just that one sound that caught your attention. Okay. The cat, oh, it's just going, the chat window is just exploding with a lot of input. Sound of fan, AC, television, rooster. Okay, that must be an imagination unless you are in a village. The AC sound, the bell sound, the doorbell, my breath, music, peace, fan. All right. Somebody heard a Om Shanti sound, vehicles outside the house, the television sound, the honking, the sound of a pigeon, vehicles. Okay, somebody is singing some bhajans. All right. There's so many of you written so many of your thoughts. All right. That was beautiful. We can stop that now. And I would like to tell you that every single sound that you heard is the start of a story. Every single sound you heard is a start of a story. If you look at the pressure cooker, if you heard the whistling of a pressure cooker, then the story is what's cooking? Who's making? Is the dinner being cooked? Is the maid in the kitchen? Or is it a family member who's cooking dinner for you? If you heard the dog barking, you would wonder, what does the dog see? Why is the dog barking? If it's a bhajan, who's singing the bhajan? Is it because it's the start of the Navratri? Are the bhajans Navratri bhajans? So every sound is associated with a story. And thus, I would like to begin this webinar today with a simple thought. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment, please. That stories are all around us. Stories are all around us. We just need to learn to listen for them. If you keep your listening ears active, you really don't need to go hunting for stories. Stories will come to you because stories are all around us. Okay, so with that, I welcome you to this wonderful, wonderful webinar, a workshop on creative classrooms, where my idea is to share some tips and techniques on how you can turn your lessons into unforgettable stories. One moment. Yeah. So the next question that I want to pose is, are you a storyteller? So the answer could be yes, no, or a maybe. And again, type in your answers in the chat, please. Do you think you are a storyteller? There could be three possible answers for this. Yes, no, maybe, not really sure. So three possible answers. Let's see what you have to say to this. All right. Not really sure. Yes, maybe. Yes, yes, maybe. Yes. There are more yes than anything else. Yes, I've written a book. I am a storyteller. Somebody says, maybe, yes, maybe, yes, yes, yes. I'm happy to see that there are hardly any no's here. Most probably, okay, that was interesting. Maybe, okay, somebody says no. That's not a problem. So mostly it is a yes. All right, we can stop that. So the most interesting part is that, or the fact is that we are all storytellers. We are, each one of us present here is a storyteller. It's just that sometimes some of us feel that we are not. But we are born to tell stories. 65% of our conversations are nothing but stories. Yet we think we are not storytellers. Because when we look at a professional storyteller, when we look at a Sudha Murthy, when we look at a Devdutt Patnaik, when we look, when you look at me, you would think that, oh, look at her, look at him. He tells stories so beautifully. I don't tell stories the way they do, so I'm not a storyteller. But no, my friends, each one of us here is a storyteller because we tell stories all day long, all day long. If I ask you, how was your day? What did you do today? You would tell me, most certainly, in the morning when I woke up, I did this, and then I did that, and then this happened, and then at around 3, I did this, and now I'm in the workshop. So, what are you doing? You are recalling a series of events, a sequence of events. This, and then that, and then this, and that, and then this, that, and so on and so forth. So stories are nothing but a chain of events. But we don't see these events as stories. And the conversation that you have over a cup of tea, when you talk about Navratri holidays, what are your plans for it? You talk about the recent release on OTT. We talk about a movie, you discuss a book, they're nothing but they're stories. And we tell stories all the time. And even when we are sleeping, stories don't stop. Dreams, the dreams that we dream of, they are also creative forms of a creative form of storytelling. So each one of us present here is a storyteller. Okay. And our brain, our human brain is a pattern recognizing, meaning making machine. We keep weaving stories to understand the world around us. When we look at something in our environment, we receive that information, okay? We store it in our brain, we process it, we store it. And when it is time to recall that, we do it in the form of stories. And when we look around us, okay, we are constantly weaving stories to understand the world around us. And this will become clearer with the following puzzle. So again, on the chat, be very active and tell me, what shapes do you see in this figure? So I have a figure right in front of you. Look at it, observe it carefully, and tell me, what shapes do you see in the figure? And the answers have already started coming in. A very active audience here. So star, triangle, circle, okay, circle, star, triangle. So what I'm seeing is the 3 common things that everybody's talking about. One is a circle, second is a triangle, third is a star. Okay, let me see if I can read something else there. Okay, mostly it is, okay, somebody says Aditi Chatterjee. Hello, you say hexagon as well. Okay, otherwise it's star, triangle. Tanaya says pie chart, kind of a figure this is. Okay, otherwise mostly it is a star, triangle, circle. Shraddha says semicircle. All right. Okay. So if I can sum it all up, I can say that most of the people here think of this as an upright triangle, which is obstructing 3 black discs. And there is a second inverted triangle, which is outlined in black. Okay, so if I have summarized your thoughts well, give me a thumbs up, please. Okay, yes. Okay, just give me a thumbs up. That should do. Yes, or a thumbs up. Yes, all right, perfect. Okay, now what shapes are actually there in the figure? Each one of you had an idea. Most of you thought it's a triangle and a circle. Okay, some people had some more inputs, but largely it was a circle and a triangle. But when I ask you this question again, that what shapes are actually there in the figure, you would be surprised to read this. It's nothing but a symmetrical figure, and the symmetrical figure consists of three discs. They are not circles. Relook at it now. As I read out the slide, relook at the figure. It's a symmetrical figure consisting of three discs. Sorry, I'm having a bad cough. And in each of these discs, there is a small triangular section that's missing. And there are no triangles here. There are just three pairs of lines which are outlined in black. If you agree to that, give me a thumbs up again. So now when you relook at it, you understand, oh, actually, this is right. There aren't any triangles. There aren't any circles. There are just three discs with a portion missing, and there are three pairs of lines which are outlined in black. But when I asked you, what do you see? What did you say? I see a triangle, I see a circle, I see this, and I see that. So what does that say? We make sense of the world around us through stories, and our minds are constantly looking for missing piece of the puzzle to form a complete picture. Our brain, human brain, is a pattern recognizing, meaning making machine. We weave stories to understand the world around us. I'll simplify this by giving an example. I have Lini Biju Thomas, ma'am, here. I can see her, and say I am sitting with her over a cup of coffee, and Lini ma'am is she's not talking much, and she has a long sad face, and I ask, hey Lini ma'am, what happened to you today? And she replies, oh, nothing. I said, come on, tell me. I'm your friend. You can tell me. She says, nothing. Now, this is a puzzle in front of me. She's saying nothing, but I see a long, sad face. So my brain will start, weaving a story to understand her, to understand Lini ma'am's situation. I'll start thinking, is she sad because she's not feeling well? Is she sad because she didn't get the job she wanted? Is she sad because she's not going for a vacation in the Shera? So my brain will start weaving stories to understand the situation, to understand the person in front of me. Okay, so somebody wants me to share the image again. So here you are for the. So what I'm trying to say is that the brain is constantly trying to understand the world around us by by weaving stories. So we are storytellers because we are constantly weaving stories. We are storytellers because every little conversation that we have is nothing but stories. So I want you to enter this workshop with a firm belief that we are storytellers and we are story creators. Give me a thumbs up now if you really think, if you're convinced with this idea that you are a storyteller and you know how to create wonderful stories. Okay, great. Okay, now, your very presence here makes me understand that you and I believe that stories are important. It's an important pedagogical tool. Stories, if we bring stories in the classroom, it can enhance the entire teaching learning experience, right? Now, I still would like you before we dive into the how bit of storytelling on how do we apply stories in the classroom for which we all have gathered here, I want to spend just 2 minutes building a foundation together on the why. So I have a question for you here. What do you believe? What, as an educator, do you believe is the single biggest superpower a story brings to the modern classroom? In simpler words, why should we tell stories in the classroom? And I don't want you to write much. I want each one of you to just put in one thought, okay? One thought, that why, as an educator, you think you need to bring stories in the classroom. And there the answers have started pouring in. I'm not able to match up to your speed. To capture attention, trigger creativity. Okay, most of you have written imagination, to help children focus, to connect with the kids, to bring joy to learning, to make classroom interesting, to help students imagine. Okay, imagination. Everybody's talking about imagination. Everybody's talking about connection. Okay, to make the subject more relatable, to arouse curiosity. Wonderful. To help children to gain the attention of students. Children love stories, so that's why we need to tell them stories. Okay. Enhance creative thinking. Okay, to clarify concepts. That's wonderful. So we can stop the discussion there. So you're absolutely right. We need to bring stories in the classroom because stories help trigger imagination. It sends you, when you listen to a story, when you're telling a story, the listeners go on a mental journey where they start connecting one thing to another, right? And if we want children to be thinkers, we want them to grow up to be original thinkers, to be creative thinkers, we need to give them the power of imagination, which is only possible through stories. And stories improve communication, right? That's the given. No need for any explanation. Stories make learning memorable. So again, another question for you, again back to chat. How many of you can remember the Archimedes principle? Okay, imagine this is a live classroom, no Googling. Just tell me yes or no. Do you remember the Archimedes principle? Okay, it can be either a yes or no. Okay, and if I'm not wrong, the more no's than yes. Okay, and I love this honesty. Okay, so we can stop that. My next question is an easier one. It might be a more of yes this time. How many of you remember the Pythagoras theorem? How many of you remember the Pythagoras theorem? And don't fake it, please, okay? Do you remember the Pythagoras theorem? Okay. All right. It's like some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. Now, stop there. Stop typing. Stop typing. The third question is a very interesting one. Stop typing. Okay, some people are still writing. Okay, I'm very happy if you remember. Okay, and there's no problem if you don't. My third question to you is, how many of you remember the hare and tortoise story? How many of you remember the hare and tortoise story? And till now, I don't see a no. Everybody is saying a yes. Okay, stop there. It's interesting to see your responses. People are writing morals, slow and steady wins a race. That's really good remembrance. Perfect. Okay, so what does that say? That we might not remember the Archimedes principle, we might not remember the Pythagoras theorem. Though each one of us who's an educator here has certainly given the secondary exam, the grade 10th exam, and we each one of us, whether we did a CBSE board or ICC board, we have formally studied these theorems as principles, and we've sat and we've written exams on these, but still so many of us are not able to recall it. But we were never taught the hare and tortoise story. We were told this story when we were a little child. It was not part of the curriculum. We did not sit and write, a question paper on hare and tortoise story. Yet, each one of us present here, we remember it. What does that show? Stories are remembered. Rest everything else is forgotten. Yes? So thank you for that. So many of you have already written, stories are remembered. So that's what I wanted to drive across. Stories make learning memorable. So if you want your students to really remember all that you teach them, you have to teach them through stories. The reason being, it's all very scientific that when you Just when you teach through story, when you teach through a story, that you engage the entire brain, not just yours, but of your students as well. So storytelling is a whole brain activity. Okay, so I always give an example that if you want to lose weight, you just don't do a leg workout. You don't just move your arms and you expect that you will lose weight. You do a whole body workout, okay, to get the result. So if you want, you know, if you want students to remember whatever you teach them, they should remember even after 20 years. You need to exercise their whole brain, and that can only happen when you tell stories. Okay, so stories activate the most of the regions of the brain. It becomes a whole brain activity, and since the entire brain is getting engaged, learning becomes more memorable. Okay, I did not see this the mention of empathy when you were writing why stories are important. Stories are important because it helps children to develop empathy, which is considered as one of the most important 21st century skill. Okay, stories give them a chance to experience a life which is not their own, without any risk of failure or success, or risk of any danger, perceived danger. Children enter the story through that character, they come out with lessons. Okay, so stories are the most powerful way of helping children develop empathy, which is the most important 21st century skill. We want our children to become good listeners. That's the most common complaint we have as a parent, as an educator, that children don't listen these days. If you want children to become better listeners, you need to tell them a lot of stories, because everybody loves a good story. And of course, stories make learning fun. So we need to bring stories in the classroom. So now let's see. Sorry, I'm so sorry about this coughing. All right, so let's see now that we understand as educators that we need to bring stories in the classroom, but how do we do that? How do we bring stories in the classroom? So today I'm going to discuss three very important strategies, okay? Without deviating from the curriculum, how can you, without wasting too much of curriculum time, how can you bring stories in the class, make stories a part of your teaching learning experience? Number one, very important, okay, which is often overlooked, is sharing personal stories. Okay, so here is an activity for you. I'll stop the screen share for 2 minutes. And what I want you to do is, whether you are in school or whether you are at home, okay, you have to grab hold of someone for this activity. Okay, you have to find someone, get into a pair for this activity, and you have to share a personal story with that person. Okay, if you are home alone, just call a friend. Okay, make that friend, बोल देना KBC में phone a friend. So phone a friend and make that friend your partner. And this activity is very simple. We'll just spend 3 minutes for this activity. So where you have to narrate an incident from your childhood. Okay. Any incident you recall from your childhood, you have to share that with your partner. Your partner could be sitting next to you. Your partner could be in the kitchen cooking. Ask them to take a break. Just take 3 minutes. 1.5 minutes, you become the storyteller. Your partner will be the listener. Tell a childhood event. Event is nothing, it's story. So share a childhood memory, an event, a story with your partner. Spend just 90 seconds. That's it, a short story. And then once you're done, ask your partner for a childhood memory of his or her childhood memory. Okay, your partner will also share for 1.5 minutes. Exactly after 3 minutes, I'll activate this window again. So let's do that now. It's a very important lesson. It could be a child, it could be an adult in the family, it could be a friend who's visiting, it could be a relative, it could be, if you're in school, it could be your co-teacher, just anyone. Just 20 seconds to go. All right, let's get back. Okay, it's time for reflection. We did this for fun, but there must be some learning out of this. So back to chat and tell me, what did you feel? What did you feel when you were sharing your own story? What did you feel when you were sharing your own story? Just the answer to the first question. Okay, you can write an emotion that surfaced. Nostalgia, happiness. I visited my childhood. I felt connected. Happiness. Oh, somebody felt sad. I'm sorry. Okay. It's mostly happiness. Oh, a lot of enthusiasm, excitement. Felt engaged, refreshed, happy. Got a chance to walk down the memory lane. Okay. Happiness, happiness, happiness. And that's all we want, to be happy. It was emotional for someone. Okay. I felt delighted. Relived my childhood. I felt a little silly, somebody says. It was so stress-free. Oh, mind was not my mind feels fresh. I smiled. It was joyful. Perfect. Can we stop that now? Can we stop typing, please? Can we do that? Move on to the next question. Can we move on to the next one? All right. What did you notice when you were listening to your partner? What did you notice when you were listening to your partner? Emotional connection, curious, excitement, happiness. I was just being patient and listening to her. Connected. Curiosity is a common one coming in. Okay. All right. It's just moving so fast. There's just so many of you. I'm just not able to read all your answers. I felt connected. Okay. Connection is something that's common here. I felt curious, inquisitive, excited, connected, excited, happy, bonded. So, what I see mostly is number one, how did you feel when sharing your story? I felt happy. What did you notice when listening to others? I felt connected. Okay. The third question, did you feel more connected to the person? So, I think there's no need for the third question. All right. So, what did you do just now? You shared a personal story, right? And when you shared the personal story, it helped you feel connected, it helped you feel happy, excited, and everything else. All right, let's move on. So, good teaching always requires a special blend of personal and professional. Okay, I repeat, good teaching requires a special blend of personal and professional. Although there is a fine line between revealing a piece of oneself to establish a rapport with your students and sharing too much information, but definitely sharing past experiences, that is, sharing personal stories, is critical for classroom engagement. It is critical for deep learning. So, what is a personal story? Personal story is a story that's, in simpler words, is your personal experience, an experience that's your lived experience, something where you have been a character, something that has happened to you. It could be a challenge you overcame, it could be a moment of joy, it could be a moment of surprise, it could be a mistake that you've learned from, it could be an excursion you took, it could be a weekend adventure, it could be just any experience that you have lived, any experience that you have experienced. And when you share that person's story with your students, what happens? Number one, it humanizes you. It shows students that there is a person who's behind that professional role. Children see you as a teacher. They see you as somebody who's learned, as someone who knows it all. It's seldom that students get to see your life, your personal life. If you go back to your childhood, if I go back to my childhood when we all were students, how uh, curious we would be about our teachers. We would often wonder what kind of a house they live in. We would wonder about their families. We would wonder about their plans for vacation. And if ever we spotted our teacher in a mall or in a cinema hall or in a restaurant, we would be so excited. We would come back to the school next day and share with our friends. We saw Mrs. Verma, we saw Mrs. Basu, we saw Mrs. Agarwal, we saw her. Oh, she was with her family, and she has two daughters, and this and that, and so much we would be excited to share with our friends. So when you share something personal with your students, it humanizes you. Okay, it shows them, it helps them to bond and connect with you. When children say, there's a child in your classroom who's celebrating his or her birthday, and the parent sends a big cake, I'm sure it triggers your memory of your birthday celebration in your childhood. And all it takes to bond and connect with the classroom is just to tell them that story of your birthday and how, the shape of the cake that you cut, your friends who were invited, or how simple or how fancy the celebrations used to be back in our times. And when you do that, when you step out, of your role as a teacher, and you just become one of them by sharing a story, a personal story, it just helps children to bond and connect with you. It helps them to establish a strong rapport with you. Okay. And when you share, it encourages children to share their own stories. And this especially becomes true, when if you're a pre-primary teacher, children, they keep yapping, they keep talking. Oh, ma'am, I'm going there, and my father is a doctor, and my mom is this and that. It just goes on, and it becomes hard for you to quieten them down. But as they grow old, as they move into primary school and then middle school and senior school, the rapport is totally broken, it's shattered. And the teacher remains a rigid teacher who has come to teach and doesn't talk anything but the curriculum. And the child stops trusting the teacher because the child thinks that, oh, there's no point talking to her, she wouldn't understand. My teacher doesn't understand what we are going through. So, if by sharing a personal story, if we can bridge the gap, or we can, establish a bridge between the learner and a teacher, classroom management will become very easy. And the classroom will become a more safe and sensitive space for people, to establish a bond and a trust. And when that happens, it definitely impacts learning in a very positive way. The classroom community becomes very strong. And then when you ask them to listen to you, when you ask them to focus, when you ask them to pay attention, they do that because they start trusting you more. Because you have, you know, by sharing personal stories, you have established a rapport with them, you've bonded with them. So teachers, I truly believe that no matter how pressed you are for time, how difficult the curriculum is, how lengthy it is, if you can start your day by sharing just 2 minutes, you can just spend 2 minutes sharing a personal story, there will be a big transformation in your classroom culture. Okay? Now, having said that, you have to keep in mind that the story that you share has to be age appropriate. The story that you share, you have to be when you share a story, a personal story, you have to be sensitive to the cultural background of the class. You should not only talk about your success stories, you should also talk about failures. I have failed in grade 6, and that was the first time when I failed at something. And I really don't mind talking about it Because today, when people look at me as a successful trainer, they should also be aware of my, I don't mind making myself a little vulnerable and tell them that, you know what, I was a very introverted child. I would, rehearse in my mind before speaking. Even if I had to ask for a glass of water, I would go through that sentence twice in my mind before I would ask for a glass of water. I had very, very low self-esteem and confidence. I felt that if I talk, I'll make mistakes and I'll be ridiculed. That's how I grew up. That underconfident I was. But today, if I had not, if I am, I'm in a workshop with a group of teenagers, and I give a very successful workshop, they would they would not know my, and if I don't share my journey, they would not know that I was also like, I had failed before, I came up here, and that it's okay to stutter and stammer and fall along this journey till you find your path. So I always say, do not stick to only heroic tales. Make yourself a little vulnerable, because there is bonding in that vulnerability. And you should know why you're sharing your personal story, which is very important, because classroom time is limited. You have a 40-45 minute period, and you should know what story you're going to share, and you should know why you're sharing it. If it's an exam time, if children are getting very nervous, they're getting very anxious, it's good to share a story, from a time when you wrote a competitive exam and how you felt and how you prepared for it, the emotions that were going through at that time. Okay, but if it is somebody is if it's a beginning of a academic year, and especially for preschoolers who come in crying because there's a separation anxiety from the parent, then you cannot talk about your birthday or your upcoming vacation. Then you need to go back your childhood and talk about your first day of school, and how anxious were you, and how then you settled down with your teacher. So think about what you're sharing, why you're sharing. Think about age appropriateness. If if you talk about dating, if you talk about crush, and if you talk about first love to a group of teenagers, to grade 10th, I understand, but you can't bring those stories for grade fourth of for fourth or fifth graders. You can't bring that story. It's not age appropriate. So be mindful that the stories that you share, personal stories that you share, they need to be, age appropriate. You should be sensitive towards the cultural background of your class. You should not only talk about stories where you emerge as a hero, and you should know why you're sharing the personal story. Okay. So, but every day, make it a ritual to start your class with just a 2-minute personal story. Just 2 minutes, and you will make up for those 2 minutes, because children will be more attentive. And since you've established a rapport, a bond right in the beginning of that 40-minute class, children will like you instantly, and they will listen to you. And if you have to make them understand a particular concept, you might not have to repeat it 3 times. Maybe they will get it at one go, because they will be more active listeners, because they would have started liking you more. You got it? Yeah. So if you have any questions around personal stories, please put it in the chat now. Thank you, Soumya. You find it interesting. I'm happy. Krupali says, yes, you'll do that. Anjali, thank you. Thank you, everyone. But if you have any questions, this is the time to ask before I move on to the next strategy. Okay, I saw a question there. Should the stories be related to concepts only? No, Sridevi, not at all. See, we can use stories in multiple ways in the classroom. Right now, we are not talking about concept stories at all. Right now, I'm moving beyond academics. I'm talking about how we can, not pay attention to the curriculum for 2 minutes and just do something out of the curriculum, out of context, out of academics. And one strategy is to just tell personal stories, nothing to do with what you're teaching, not at all. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Okay. Harshita has a question. She's asking, what if students take the story as negative and use that story as their reason for failure or lacking behind? Charshid, I'm sorry, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. And if the student, if you find there's a student who feels troubled with your story, then there's always room for a conversation. Okay? All right, we move on to the next strategy. So the first strategy of application of stories in the classroom to make the classrooms creative is share personal stories. Let's see what's next. Next is share stories for the love of it. So I will not share my screen for 2 minutes and I would like to see you guys on a bigger screen. So when I say that share stories for the love of it, I mean that there are times, there are multiple opportunities that you will get to share stories just for fun. Again, no agenda. The only purpose is to laugh and make your students laugh. Now, sometimes the curriculum is over. You've been such an efficient teacher, the syllabus is over, so you have plenty of time. You have that 1 week which is free before the session breaks. So, what do you do that in that 1 week? Share stories. Sometimes, the stories can act as an icebreaker. You come to the class, children look very bored, or maybe it's a hot day, the school AC is not working. Children say, "No, ma'am, we don't want to study today. We don't want to study." Okay, let's take a break. Let me tell you a story. Or it's a 45-minute class and you're teaching a very abstract concept. Story can act as an icebreaker. Tell a short story to the children, it re energizes them. Okay? Or you are substituting for a teacher. The math teacher did not come and you teach physics and you go into the math classroom. Okay? You're substituting as for the math teacher, but you don't have to teach them anything. So rather than telling them, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, you can just become a storyteller. Tell them a story. Make the most of it of that class. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story and I'm going to make you have fun. And this is a tell along story. So you'll get a little storytelling practice. Do what I do, say what I say. So whatever you see me do, whatever you hear me do, you have to just repeat that. Okay, so I'm sure you will take this opportunity to practice storytelling as well. This kind of storytelling is called tell along story. And I would want more and more people to come switch on their videos so that I can see what you're doing. Okay, so let's begin. Story number one. So everybody point a finger out. Story number one. Story number one. Hill. Hill. Goat. Goat. One day. You're repeating, right? One day. This goat came down the hill. He crossed the bridge. Now that you have taken, you have turned on your videos, I really want you to enact this story with me. Okay, so I want those fingers to move and your lips to move. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, one day, this goat came down the hill. He crossed the bridge. He ate some grass. Yum, 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 yum. I love that sound. Yum, 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 yum. He was so happy. He bleated. He went back. After eating grass, he went back up the hill. The next day, this goat came down the hill. He crossed the bridge. He ate some grass. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. He was so happy. He bleated. He went back up the hill. The third day, stop sending me the thumbs up. Okay, don't waste your time. Practice with me. I know you all love me. The third day, both the goats came down the hill, crossed the bridge. The bridge was narrow. I want everybody to be surprised. The bridge was narrow. The goats got stuck. Hey, move! Why should I move? Come on, repeat that. Why should I move? I came here first. No, it was me. I will kick you. And I will punch you. And so they both started fighting. Yes, they both started fighting. And when they were fighting, they fell in the river below. They fell in the river below. They got out. They got out. They looked at each other. You? You made me fall in the river? You pushed me first. You so unfriendly. You so uncooperative. What did they say? You're so unfriendly. And you so uncooperative. And they both went back up the hill. They both went back up the hill. It's the end of story number 1. I felt a little lost for that few seconds. End of story number 1. So you can repeat that after me. End of story number 1. Now, story number 2. I want everybody to do what I'm doing. Story number 2. Hill, hill, goat, goat. One day, this goat came down the hill. He crossed the bridge. He ate some grass. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. He was so happy. He was so happy. He bleated. He bleated. He went back up the hill. The next day, now you can do with me now that you know it. The next day, this goat came down the hill. He crossed the bridge. He ate some grass. Yum, 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 yum. He was so happy. He was so happy. He bleated. He went back up the hill. The third day, both the goats came down the hill. They crossed the bridge. The bridge was very narrow. They looked at each other. Hey, I'm hungry. I want to go on the other side to eat grass. Hey, I'm hungry too. Even I want to cross the bridge, but the bridge is narrow. Yes, I see that. What shall we do? Shall we think? Yes, let's think. And so, my friends, the goats did not push each other. They did not kick each other. They started thinking and they thought and they thought and they thought some more. And finally, they had an what? Come on, tell me. They had an idea. They decided to squeeze through. They decided to make space for each other. They decided to squeeze through. They both ate the grass. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. They both were so happy. They bleated. They crossed the bridge. They met again. Hey, thank you. I should thank you. Oh, you made space for me. You did that too. Can we be friends? Yes, let's be friends. And they both hugged and became friends. They both went back up the hill. End of story number 2. So now my question to you is, back to the chat. Are you the goat in story number 1? And don't switch off the videos, okay? Please, I want to see you. Are you the goat in story number 1 or are you the goat in story number 2? Be honest. Come on, let's see what you have to say. Everybody says 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. But when I do this with children, there are some children who say, Ma'am, I'm the goat in story number 1, and I love that honesty. All right. Okay, I'm happy that all of us are the goat in story number 2, but it's okay at times to be the goat in story number 1. It's okay at times to fight, but then patch up. Okay, so we can stop that on the chat and back to me. So what I was trying to say is that sometimes you need to tell stories just for fun, because stories serve as an icebreaker, serve as an energizer, beginning of the academic year when you're getting to establish a bond and connect with your students as a new teacher. And if you just tell them stories just to make them have fun, what will happen? They will bond and connect with you. Okay, as a substitute teacher, again, children will bond and connect with you. Academics over, no agenda. Today is a free period. Bond and connect with you. PE teacher is not there. It's raining. P won't happen. They're all locked up in a classroom. Just tell a story. They'll bond and connect with you. So tell, there are two strategies we have discussed till now. One strategy is that we share personal stories. I'm hoping that everybody will go back to the classroom, okay, tomorrow and share a personal story with your students. Second, without any agenda, just let them have fun, share a story just for the love of it. Okay. And now, as educator, I'm sure your favorite topic is how do we teach through stories? Now, let's talk about the curriculum. How do we teach through stories? Okay. So, here I would like to tell you that there are two ways in which you can tie a story to the curriculum. One is you can introduce a topic through a story. The second is you can teach the topic through a story. One, I repeat, you can introduce a topic through a story. Okay. Second, you can teach the entire topic through a story. So I would like now I would demonstrate 2 or 3 stories. Let's see how much time do we have. And I would want you to hear the story, and then we will discuss how we can use stories to teach. Being a storyteller, I truly believe that you will not learn through PowerPoint, you will learn through stories. And that is my idea behind today's workshop. Okay, so one story that I would like to tell you is a story for which I need a pair of scissors, and you should just give me a minute for that. Okay. I'm not able to find my scissors, so no worries. I have another story here. I'll go back to the scissor story a little later. So what is this? What is this? What do you see in front of me? Okay. What do you see? Beads. Okay. Take a closer look. What is this? A string. All right. So we take that. A string. Okay. So this story that I'm going to do today with you is a story that I do with the help of this string. And before I forget, this story is also part of my YouTube channel. So watch it now. Don't record anything. Don't write it. Don't write anything, because I have recorded this story on my YouTube channel, and I'm there. The channel name is Storyteller Nupur. Okay. That's the name of my channel. So let's watch this. Now, because the time is short, so I'll tell this as briefly as possible, but I'll maintain the essence of the story. Okay. So can you tell me which vegetables grow above the ground? Can you quickly tell me which vegetables grow above the ground? Okay. Cabbage. Lovely. Lady's finger. Pumpkin, cauliflower, brinjal, spinach. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Drumstick. All right. Wonderful. Now pause there. Which vegetables grow below the ground? Which vegetables grow below the ground? Okay. Potato, carrot, or turnip. All right, radish, beetroot, tapioca, ginger. Wonderful, that's great. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's go back to the story. So there was a farmer who grew all the vegetables that you've mentioned. He grew all the vegetables above the ground that are grown above the ground, and he grew all the vegetables that grow below the ground. But his favorite vegetable was turnip. And he would very often grow turnips on his farm. And one day, when he went to dig out the turnip, he realized you can stop. You can stop the chat, stop being active on the chat and listen to this story, because a very interesting story. Okay. All right. So maybe somebody's asking me to stop screen share so that they can see me better. So there we are. Okay. Everybody here, look at me. Am I pinned as well? One moment. Spotlight for everyone. Okay. This is good, right? Okay. Fine. All eyes here. So the farmer, as I said, grew lots of vegetables. One day he decided to dig out the turnip. And when he went over to the turnip patch, he saw that there was one turnip that had grown enormous. It was very, very, very big. Okay, let me unblur my background. You'll be able to see me better. And for that, I'll ask you for a minute. Okay, let me unblur. Yes, I think this will be better. Okay, so he saw that there was one turnip that had grown enormous. The farmer started thinking of all the dishes that he would cook with the enormous turnip. He thought, I can make a soup, I can make turnip bread, I can make turnip cake, I can put it in my sambar too, I can make a turnip curry. He was so excited. So he grabbed the turnip and he started pulling it out. He tried to pull it out. Now, if you want to stay engaged, if you want to avoid getting bored, then you can join me. So just put your hand out like this and imagine that there's a string around your palm and you pull it like that. Okay. So he grabbed the turnip and he tried to pull it out. 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 But friends, no matter how hard he tried, the turnip remained under the ground. The turnip did not come out. The farmer was getting tired. He really wanted to dig out the turnip. So the farmer, now this story is very magical. So all eyes here. So the farmer, he went inside the house and he called his wife. So his wife came, she grabbed him by his waist. The farmer grabbed the turnip and together they tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out, but no matter how hard they tried, the turnip was so stubborn, the turnip did not come out. The wife, the husband, they did not give up. They went inside the house and they called their son. Son came, held mama, mama held the farmer, farmer held the turnip, and together they tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out, but no matter how hard they tried, the turnip did not budge. The turnip was very stubborn. The turnip did not come out. The brother ran inside and he called his sister. Sister came, grabbed brother's waist. Brother grabbed mama. Mama grabbed the farmer. Farmer grabbed the turnip. And together they tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out. Come on, everybody. Give me some energy. Okay, I derive my energy from my audience. Everybody tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out. They tried to pull it out, but the turnip did not budge. The turnip did not come out. And they had a dog. A dog. Can you suggest a name for the dog in the chat? The first name that I see will be the name of the dog. Bruno. Oh, Tim. So to be fair, it's Tim. So Tim came. Tim wanted to help too. So Tim held the girl held the brother held mama, mama held the farmer, and the farmer held the turnip. He grabbed the turnip, and together they tried to pull it out. Now look here, you'll miss out. Tried to pull it out. Tried to pull it out. And as I tried to pull and pull and pull and pull and pull, the turnip came out. The enormous turnip came out. I know you're clapping for me. Thank you, thank you. So they came out, but the story doesn't end here. Okay? They carried, the farmer wanted to really make a hot, nutritious, delicious turnip soup. So carried the turnip to the kitchen. And can you help? It's an enormous turnip. So the farmer needs all our help. So, shup, shup, shup. So the turnip landed on the kitchen counter and they washed the turnip because turnip is an underground vegetable. It's covered with dirt, with mud. So they washed it and they patted it dry and then they scraped the turnip. Come on, everybody, move your hands. Help me scrape, 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 scrape. And then the farmer chopped it. Can you chop it? I'm holding the turnip. Can you chop it for me? Chop, 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 chop. And then let's put the chopped turnip pieces in a big bowl of water. Okay, a wok of water. And the water started bubbling and boiling and bubbling and boiling and bubbling and boiling and bubbling and boiling. And then he started adding the spices. What do you think he should add? Salt? All right. And a little bit of pepper. Good job. And maybe some corn flour. Okay, so let's mix some corn flour with the water. Let's add that. And I know, Surabhi, you love cheese. So let me put cheese as well. So he grated some cheese. Yes, and he gave it a nice stir. And when the soup began to bubble and boil and bubble and boil and bubble and boil, the farmer, now all eyes here. Okay, it's tea time, I know, but just another few minutes. Let's see what I'm doing. The farmer poured it in big bowls and he gave it to his family members. They all drank the turnip soup. It was yum, mom, so delicious. They all were so happy. They all sat and chanted, never give up, never give up, never give up, never give up. So that was the story of enormous turnip. And now, as educators, tell me, if you were to use this story in your classroom, what can you what which concepts can you teach through this story? Okay, now your time to answer. Okay, unity, vegetables, teamwork, family, do not give up, persistence. Okay, leave behind the models: persistence, unity, hard work, teamwork, collaboration. Guys, stop it. Okay, patience, never give up. Okay, lovely, fantastic. Okay, let's talk about concepts as in academic concepts. What can we teach? So, Hema ma'am says to the pre-primary children, we can talk about vegetables that grow above the ground and the ones that grow below the ground. That's perfect. We can talk about family, composition of a family, because that's also a very important unit in early years. You talk about the father, mother, the parents, and then the brother, sister. And these days, pets are also family. So, yes, that's, in modern households, every other household has a pet. So, yes, we can talk about that. We can talk about opposites, says Ruchika. Yes. Nanath, if that's how you pronounce your name, you can talk about numbers. You can talk about ordinal numbers. Once you've told the story, you can say first, when you are recalling the story, you can use certain vocabulary to teach children ordinal numbers. So you can say that who pulled it first, then who pulled it, who was the second person to join, who was the third person, fourth, fifth. So you can bring in that vocabulary to teach ordinal numbers. Yes, you can. Pooja is a big foodie. She says you can teach the recipe of a particular food that you want. Gajar ka halwa in winters, pulled out the carrot. You can talk about potato halwa during Navratri. Yes, you can talk about turnip soup or a carrot soup during winters. What else can you do? If I ask you to teach math through this story, is there any scope for it? Think about it. If I ask you to teach math through this enormous turnip story, can you do that? Addition, okay, opposite, heavy, light, perfect. Before, after, measurements, sizes, ordering, perimeter. Komal, that was one interesting take. Okay, perfect. So what is the moral here? That we can teach math, we can teach EVS, we can teach language, we can teach art and craft through this story, and of course, value education as well through that story. This is a very common story, but I'm sure before this, you never thought that a story as simple as enormous turnip, which have you been hearing for many, many years, can be used to teach so many different concepts. So, as educators, when you already have so much work, I always say that pick one story and try to tweak that story so that you can teach not just one, but 10 different concepts, so that you don't have to go hunting for 10 stories for teaching 10 concepts. One story can be very powerful in teaching 10 concepts, provided you are creative. Okay, so be creative and you will figure out how that one story can be used for teaching multiple concepts. Okay, there's still people are talking about counting and shape. Yes, there's so much. And I'll just pause here and say that this book that I have written, it's called Storytelling Made Easy. It's there on Amazon. The entire idea behind this book is to help educators. So every story, if you see in the book, carries a lesson plan with it. How can you teach that particular story, to teach EVS, math, language, uh, art. So every story comes with an entire guide on how you can integrate that story in the curriculum. And every story comes with a telling guide. So the story is mentioned. Alongside, I've mentioned how do you tell it. So if you want to learn storytelling, of course, you can come to my class. But this is also a great way to learn storytelling. It's called Storytelling Made Easy. It's on Amazon. My name is Nupur Aggarwal. There's only one Nupur Aggarwal who's written this book, so easy to find. Okay, so the next story that I want to share with you, and that's a story that I'm going to, use a paper and a newspaper and a pair of scissors to tell this story. And this is also a folk tale. So,
So, Nupur
uh,
ma'am, can I intervene
yeah,
just a minute? There was a question that I found very interesting. Ma'am,
yeah.
these days, kids from grade 6 and above are not interested in stories. What can we tell them to get their attention? And how to teach maths through stories? These are the two questions that I think we should address.
Okay, so yeah, I love those questions. So, how do you teach math through the story? This is a classic example. So, this story will answer that part of the question. And when you say that children are not interested in stories, I'm sorry, that won't happen. If you tell a story well, you can grab the attention of even a 12th grader. And I
Right.
do these sessions every other day. And I am invited to schools to tell stories, even to college professors. And when I start, they say, "Oh, what? Why are we here? Your stories are meant for children." But when I start telling and engage everybody, everybody listens. So stories are not meant only for early years. Stories are meant for everyone, and more so for middle school and senior school, because the academic rigor is very high. Okay, boredom is very high, distraction is very high. So if you can establish a bond and connect by telling a story in a fantastically engaging way, you will have them with you. Okay, and how can stories be used to teach math? I'm showing you right now. Okay, so there was once a tailor, and because we want to close this by 6 o'clock, right, Saloni?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So I'll just move a little fast, but this story is also part of my YouTube channel, Storyteller Nupur. If you go there, you will find the story, but not right now. Okay. Be here with me. So there was a tailor, and that tailor was very creative, and he was very hardworking, and he would stitch beautiful clothes. Okay, before that, if there is any middle school teacher or a senior school teacher here, I would want you to observe and give everybody a feedback after this story that could could I engage you? And if after the story, if your answer is yes, that means if you tell this story, even your sixth graders and your 12th graders would stay engaged. Okay. Because if you are engaged, your students will be as well. So I was talking about the tailor who lived in a land not too far, in a town not too far from where I live. He was very creative. He was very hardworking. From morning till evening, he would snip, 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 and stitch, stitch, stitch. Snip, 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 and stitch, stitch, stitch. He would stitch beautiful clothes for the beautiful people of his town. Now, he was always so busy stitching clothes for others that he never had any time to stitch clothes for himself. And as a result, his clothes were always tattered and torn. One day, as he stepped outside his house, he found a parcel at his doorstep. He found a parcel at his doorstep. And when he picked the parcel, there was a small note attached to the parcel. And that note read, "Dear tailor, you have always stitched beautiful clothes for us. Here is a small present for you. We hope you turn this fabric into a coat." Somebody had gifted him a fabric, and someone was asking him to stitch a coat for himself. The tailor was thrilled. He was overjoyed. At once, he started working on the fabric. He snipped, 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 and he stitched, stitched, stitched. Now, everybody who's watching me, I want you to work with me. And as I snip, you go snipping too. Okay, so till I don't ask you to start stitching, you keep snipping. So he snip, 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 and he snipped, snip, snip. He snipped, snip, snip, and he snipped, snip, snip. He snipped, snipped, snip, and he snipped, snip, snipped. He snipped, 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 and he snipped, snipped, snipped. And once he had finished snipping the fabric, he started stitching it. He stitched, 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 and he stitched, stitched, stitched. He stitched, 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 and he stitched, 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 and soon his coat was ready. And when the coat was ready, he wore the coat and he stood in front of the mirror. How handsome, how dapper he looked. And when he wore the coat and he walked down the street, every head, every person who was watching him looked at him and said, "Oh, we wish we had a coat like that." Now that coat caught everybody's eyes, everybody's fancy. The tailor was mighty pleased with his coat. It became his favorite coat, and the tailor started wearing this coat everywhere. He wore it everywhere. He wore it on all days of the week. He wore it in all seasons. And when you wear something so often, what happens to it? It gets tattered and it gets torn. So his favorite coat got tattered and torn. And when he looked at it, he understood he cannot use it anymore. But he did not want to throw it. And the tailor looked at it hard and he wondered, what can I do with this tattered and torn coat? The tailor did not want to throw it. And when he looked at it hard, he had an I want everybody to go. He had an idea. He decided that there was still enough fabric left in this coat to turn it into a vest. And that's what he did. Come on, everybody, sniff with me. He sniffed, 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 and he sniffed, sniffed, sniffed. He sniffed, 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 and he sniffed, sniffed, sniffed. And then he stitched, 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 and he stitched, 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 and soon his vest was ready. And when he wore the vest and he looked at himself in front of the, he stood in front of the mirror, how handsome, how dapper he looked. And when he wore this vest and he walked down the street, every head turned towards him. And everyone who was watching him had the same thought, we wish we had a vest like the tailor. And so the tailor started wearing this vest everywhere. He wore it on all days of the week. He wore it in all seasons. And I know you have guessed it right. It got tattered and it got torn. And he knew he could not wear it anymore. But he did not want to throw it. It was his favorite vest. And he wondered what could he do with it. And as he looked at it, he had an everybody go. He had an idea. And he decided to make a handkerchief out of it. So everybody, are you ready to snip? Snip, 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 and he snipped, snipped, snipped. He snipped, 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 and he snipped, snipped, snipped. One more time. He snipped, 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 and he snipped, snipped, snipped. And he folded the handkerchief and he kept it in his pocket. Okay. He tucked it inside his shirt pocket. And when he looked at himself in the mirror, how handsome, how dapper he looked. And when he walked down the street, every head turned towards him. And everyone who was watching him had the same thought. We wish we had a handkerchief like that. And so the tailor started using this handkerchief every day. He started using it in all seasons. And when you use something so often, what happens to it? It gets tattered and torn. And that's what happened to his handkerchief. And he was not happy at all. He looked at his torn handkerchief and he wondered, what can I do with it? And as he looked at it, he had an idea. He decided to make a button out of it. So everybody, once again, he snipped, 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 and he snipped, snipped, snipped. He snipped, 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 and he snipped, snipped, snipped. He snipped, 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 and he stitched. He embroidered the button with golden and silver threads, and then he fixed it on his shirt. And when he wore this particular shirt with this button and he looked at himself in the mirror, how handsome, how dapper he looks. And when he wore this shirt with this particular button with gold and silver embroidery, and he walked down the street, every head turned towards him, and everyone who was watching him had the same thought. We wish we had a button like that. And so the tailor started wearing this particular shirt with this particular button every day. He wore it on all days of the week. He wore it in all seasons. And you're right. One day, he realized that the button was tattered and torn. He did not want to throw the button away. It was his favorite button. But now when he looked at it and he looked at it hard, he wondered, what could I do with it? There was very little of it left. And as he looked at it, as he stood there looking at it, a very strong wind blew. Shh, shh. The wind started taking the button away with it. And the tailor did not want to lose that button. And before the wind could take it all, he grabbed the button. He let the wind pass. And when the wind passed and he opened his fist, very little was left. And he looked at whatever was left of that button and he wondered, what could I do with this? There was hardly anything left here. And then he had an, come on, teachers, he had an idea. And he realized there was still enough button left for him to turn it into a story that I shared with you. All right, good participation. Thank you, everyone. So now back to business. Tell me, if you were to use this story in the classroom, what all can be taught through this story? Okay, with a special focus on math because that was a question. Okay, so Jewish folktale. Yes, Shamli ma'am, that's right. You can teach shapes, you can teach fraction. Nancy, you're right. You can teach fraction. You can teach a bigger and smaller concept. You can talk about symmetry. So you see, verbs, yes, all of English, all of language, everything can be taught. But when we're talking about uh, math per se, we are getting wonderful answers. You can teach symmetry, you can teach fraction, you can weave beautiful word problems on measurement. For example, if he was gifted 1 meter of fabric and he used 90 centimeters, how much was left? Or if he got 1 meter, 20 centimeter fabric and he used 1 meter, 20 was left, right? Then how much fabric would he need to stitch 100 coats and similar word problems? So yes, a lot art, of course, art integration can happen as well. I'm loving how active the chat window is and how you're coming up with such beautiful, wonderful ideas. So yes, so that's what I wanted to share. Just hold on back to screen. So a story, when you want to teach a new topic through a story, it can wonderfully engage children, it can excite children, it can hook children to the topic that you're going to teach. And when you're teaching abstract concepts, hard facts that's so hard for children to grasp, you can use stories to explain the concept, and that can trigger their interest in learning. Okay, stories are a wonderful way, my friends, to teach, to retain information in the most creative ways. Okay, so we don't have more time for any other assignment, but I'm very happy to share my contact details here so that you can reach out to me, because I feel that this workshop, this platform is just the beginning. And if you wish to take storytelling further, if you wish to train yourself, or if you're the head of a school looking for a training session, this is my contact details, my YouTube channel, my email ID, my Instagram, Facebook handles. And yes, thank you once again to Viva. Saloni team, can you come up and help me
Right,
close this session?
right. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to invite teachers to ask questions if in case you have. You can write them in the chat window, or you can raise your hand and we'll ask to unmute you. Any questions, anyone?
Yeah. Love to take questions. If you have anything to ask, this is the time. There's a feedback form that Viva team has rolled out, right?
Yes, we have shared the feedback form. So just to clarify, that form will ask you a certain questions. Once you fill in the form, you will get the email with the certificate, and that will happen within 1 or 2 hours of filling up, submitting the form. There's a question in the chat box from Pooja Joshi, ma'am. She's asking, kindly prepare a video on how can I make the library period more attractive, activities, etc.
So that's a big ask, Pooja, but an interesting one. So maybe we can, you can get in touch personally or get in touch with Viva team. And if we can organize one such workshop, we'd be happy to.
Yeah. So Kajal ma'am is asking for pre-primary, which language is good for story?
Ma'am, it has to be bilingual for pre-primary. And thank you so much for asking that question. Pre-primary children, it's their like early years. And, so if you can say, if you are a teacher from Telangana, I always say that as and in English medium school, so use English to tell stories in English, but also rely on Telugu, the regional language, because children connect to stories better if you're making it bilingual in early years.
There's a question from Sridevi ma'am. Why are you repeating words exactly 3 times? Maybe to.
Am I?
So, when you were telling stories, you were repeating. So that is basically to
Build participation. To
hmm,
build participation, so when you repeat anything, any action, chant, any word, a phrase, a song in the story 3 times, so you move the audience through 3 phases of repetition. One, the first time they're hearing it fresh, right? They don't know what to repeat. So when I say he pulled and he pulled and he pulled, then you get a chance to repeat after me. Second time you start repeating with me, because now you know, but you're not so confident. So when I say he pulled and he pulled and he pulled, you repeat after me, then you start repeating. Next time when I say he pulled and he pulled and he pulled, we do it together. The third time I do it to build confidence, to give you some speaking practice. So where I take a back seat and you as my audience know it so well now that you start repeating without me. So repeated, any phrase that gets repeated, any word or action gets repeated, I do it 3 times. One, to repeat, you repeat after me. Second, you repeat with me. Third, you repeat without me. I hope that answers your question.
I saw one of the question which was about the next webinar that we have. So I would like to inform you all the next webinar is going to be on 9th of October and it will be on competency-based teaching across subjects. And we'll be rolling out the invites soon for participation. So stay tuned for that. I saw one of the question in the chat box which was asking about so Pallavi Sundan, I've asked you to unmute yourself. You can please ask your question. You can unmute yourself and ask question. Meanwhile, there was a question in the chat box which was asking about how to teach stories to from standard 6 to 10th. So that is kind of repetitive. I've seen it 3 times
So,
now.
yeah. So, what I've shared over 1.5 hours doesn't just apply to early years. It's for K-12. So
Yeah.
whether you are an earlier teacher or you are a grade 12 teacher, first strategy that we discuss, share a personal story. Second, share stories just for fun. Third, use stories to teach concepts. So whether you're teaching physics, chemistry, biology, you're teaching math, you're teaching accounting, you can use stories to teach. I have demonstrated what I knew. I've given you the tools and tips and some techniques, but I'm not a subject matter expert. I'm not, I don't know physics and chemistry, but I have showed you how you can use stories in the classroom. Okay.
All right. So I would like to take a moment to show all of you that Viva has come out with a nice set of books, new series that in which we have integrated stories to introduce a chapter. As ma'am has shared that there's, one of the tool that you can use is to actually introduce the chapter with the stories. So I hope my screen is visible. This is one of the chapter in our book, Food We Eat. This is in science. And this you can see that we have beautifully started the chapter with a story, and I'll also like to showcase a few examples wherein we are doing the same. Like for in this, we have introduced major landform, which is in social sciences. We have used this particular story with the there's a kid and a dad too. They are interacting about the landform that they're looking at, and then we have introduced a chapter with that. And again, there's one more series, New Directions, which you already must have seen. There's again a story. So this is not for, these are specific examples, but this has been done throughout the book. And not just science, social science. This has been done for EVS, mathematics, and and many other subjects. And we have in the form given an option that you can actually apply for the samples, and we would love to give the samples to you. Our sales team will get in touch with you and your school, and they'll deliver the samples. Uh, all right. And with that, I would like to thank you, all of you. Thank you, Nupur ma'am. You're on mute, ma'am. Nupur ma'am, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So I would like to thank all the teachers who joined in today. You have, you chose to spend your evening with us learning about storytelling, which was a great, great session. Me being in marketing is, I know how important the storytelling is. So I have always learned a great deal from Nupur ma'am. We have done a lot of sessions together. So thank you so much, Nupur ma'am, for such interesting session. I think everybody will agree to the fact that there are a lot of takeaways from this particular session. So thanks a lot, and we'll hope to conduct many more sessions with you in future. And I will request all of you to please stay connected with us so that we can engage more on in for the future webinars and learn a lot of things together. Thank you all. Have a great evening and happy Navratras.
Thank you, Saloni. It was wonderful being here. Thank you to all the wonderful educators who were present here and truly made a difference because, I draw my energy from my audience, and I kept pushing you to answer on chat, to enact with me, and you guys did it, switched on your videos, which was like a icing on the cake. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you again. Stay connected, stay in touch. Bye bye.
Thank you, all of you. I'm ending the session.
Yes.
Thank you.